So this is a real nice Hot Wheel collection you got here, Doug.
Well, I appreciate that. This isn't all that I have, but I wanted to give you an idea of what I grew up with. It's not the biggest collection in the world either. There are people that live, eat, and breathe Hot Wheels, and they have just about every car, every model, every color. But to me, it's not about the size of my collection or what any of them are worth even. These are just the cars that I bought as a kid using my allowance.
You know, I had the first few years of Hot Wheels as well, and I didn't leave them in the package. I tore them out and played with them, raced them down the Hot Wheel track, and banged them up pretty good. But one day I decided I needed money, and I sold them all for $0.25 a piece in a garage sale.
Yeah, I still feel kind of bad about that, Jim. I wish I could give them back to you, but I needed the colors.
You know, it might have been you that bought them in the garage sale. I don't know, but that was the only way we could shop back then. There was no such thing as eBay or internet shopping where you've got a pick of whatever you want as long as you have the money.
Yes, it's truly all about the money. But you're right. Back then, to pick up things secondhand, that's all we had were garage sales and yard sales and rummage sales and that sort of thing.
Right. You know, our next collector isn't into Hot Wheels, but the theme is obvious. Now we're going to go back to an earlier generation of racing toys and memorabilia.
Ron said that when I saw the old gas pump, I'd know I was in the right place. Hi, Ron.
Doug, how we doing?
Pretty good. Just
Good.
admiring the old gas pump.
Yeah. Too bad you can't get some gas out of it.
You know, I'd like to say,
cheaper.
Yeah, really. I'd like to say that it brings back old memories, but that old thing's way before my time.
Yeah, that's an old one. That's back in the 20s.
You know, Ron, I know you have a nice collection of old toy cars, but what's with the gas pump?
Well, I kind of like gas and oil memorabilia. Also, I got the pump. This is a decorative piece, really.
You know, we'd like to see your toy car collection if we could.
Well, let's go inside the house and we'll take a look at it.
Well, I can see right away that you're a racing fan.
Yeah, these cars here are cars that are back again in the 50s and 60s. They're pretty much to the original car, the looks of them and everything.
Yeah, I could tell right away that they weren't old cars because they never made anything that nice back in the 50s.
Yeah.
Well, they fit really well because up here you have some old original items and then you have the newer stuff that goes right along with it. A lot of times collectors don't blend the old with the new, but it looks great.
Yeah, that shell truck is a scarce Buddy L truck. There's not a lot of those around.
It's pretty nice, and you got the old shell boy there.
Yeah, it's a Buddy Lee doll, they call them.
I certainly recognize this old flivver. It's a Buddy L, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And as you can see, it has the original tag. This car, I don't think it's ever been played with. It came from an old fella that said he had it sitting in his icebox. Wanted to know if I'd be interested in it. And, well, obviously I was.
Now, the company was owned by Fred Lundahl, who owned the Moline Press Steel Company.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And decided to start making toys and then named it after his son Buddy. Buddy was a pretty good student. I guess he eventually became vice president of John Deere.
Is that right? Yeah. I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. So this is the main part of your collection here.
Yeah, this is the top portion of the showcase has the gas-powered cars. These cars all have like an airplane engine in them. They used to race these on a track years ago. This is a Agajanian Special, and he raced the number 98 at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and his driver was Tony Ruttman. He made these cars for the people that worked for him in his company and his pit crew and things of that nature that worked for the Speedway. Agajanian did. This Japanese company made these. They went ahead and made them, and they didn't supposed to do that. So they went and changed them, and they made a car, and they just call it a champ car. But it was the same car, but it was made off of these cars here. There couldn't have been a whole lot of them.
So what are you looking to get out of it?
I'd say you're probably looking at $5,000.
$5,000? Would you take 300?
All right, how about 4,800?
How about 400?
I might go 4,500.
Well, Ron, I'm a businessman, and this is not an easy item to move. You know, I got to take a picture of it. I got to put it online. I mean, work with me here.
This is a friendly reminder that collecting seriously is not about haggling, purchasing, or selling. Money, value, and worth do play a role and will be discussed on occasion, but our focus is on admiring the collections. A special thanks goes out to Ron in the previous scene for playing along with our little joke and becoming an actor for a few seconds. I think he's a natural.
How'd you ever get started into collecting?
Well, I always liked the old thermodromes. I had one when I was a kid one time, and they used to sell them out at the fairgrounds. They used to have a booth out there at the midget races on Friday night. But that's how it all got started. Plus, I do like auto racing and that, so. Here's a thermodrome you've been talking about. As you can see, it's in nice shape. And here's the ones they made back in 2000. This one here shows it with a motor in it.
So these came with a motor, or some of them came with a motor, and others did not. So they were just pusher toys that you could play with in the dirt or whatever.
That's what we call them, a pusher.
Okay.
Yep. This here car is an Olson and Rice. It's similar to the Thermodrome. It was a little more advanced and a little more expensive.
I noticed that this also has eye hooks on it. So you basically just tethered it to a string, and you sat in the middle, and the car just rode around in a circle.
Yeah, that's right, exactly.
Hey, what's with the checkered flag up there? It says Soldiers Field.
Yeah, that was in Chicago. Back in the old days, they used to race midgets and big cars, they used to call them at that time. Obviously now that's a football field now.
Right, that's where the Bears play them.
Right.
Never knew they raced cars there.
Okay, this car here was made in Joliet State Prison, and I know that for a fact because I talked to a person that worked at the prison that was familiar with this car. It's a unique piece.
So it was actually built by an inmate.
Yeah.
I wonder if he knew my great-grandfather's brother.
Why, was he in jail?
You're supposed to ask me if he was a guard.
I have here in my hand a pit badge that they use at the Indianapolis Speedway, and all the owners and drivers and the pit crew, anybody that's involved in the 500-mile race, including news reporters, anybody like that, has to have this badge. They're kind of valuable. A lot of people do collect these. This here is one of the older pit badges that I have. The oldest are in the 40s and in the 50s.
Was attending the Indianapolis 500 race something that you did quite often?
I did when I was younger. I haven't in the later years. It's too much hassle.
I guess they show that on TV.
Yeah. I used to take a few things to the oil show that I felt would sell. The next thing you know, I kind of got attached to the oil. And you're looking at $100, $200 for an old Harley Davidson can. It's just the way it is. So,
what's the attraction for you to oil and gasoline products? Did you?
I don't know.
You never worked in a gasoline station?
Yeah, I did when I was a kid, yeah, but that isn't the reason I'm collecting it. I think, well, the relationship between oil companies and racing, there is a relationship between the two, and that may be some of the reasons. I just think some of the stuff is neat.
I'll bet you're an unusual kid, weren't you? I'll bet you unpacked all these toys and you stuck them in a closet somewhere never to be played with. That's why they all remain in such great shape.
Actually, I play with these all the time, and that's why they're so near and dear to me. You know, it's a shame that collectors today feel like they have to buy the toy and then keep it in the package. I don't see much fun in that.
Now, these early models of Hot Wheels had redline tires on them, and that's what made them so fast, but they also had these really skinny little axles on here, and mine got all bent out of shape. But yours seem to be straight. I mean, how did you keep them that way?
Well, you know, that was the great thing about Hot Wheels when they first came out, is they were the first die-cast car that were meant to go down a track under their own power.
Right.
Unlike Matchbox, which had to be played with on the ground, on the floor. And that's how I played with them. They ran down the track into a nice soft pillow and then right back into the case where they came from.
You know, I'll bet you didn't let your brother Greg anywhere near him either.
You know, you got that right. The wheels would bend fairly easily, and you could chip the paint and what have you. And once in a while, Greg was known to drop a brick on a toy or two. So
now, why do you think our collector Ron wouldn't let us play with his thimble drones?
I think he was probably afraid you were going to reenact a high-speed Indy crash.
You know, I'll bet he hides the key to his cabinet when his grandkids come over.
No doubt.
Got a collection that you think is neat, unique, cool? Drop us a line, send us a few pictures at collectingseriously.com.
What was it about Ron's collection that really stuck out to you?
It wasn't the largest collection. When I hear somebody say, I've got an Indy car collection or a racing car collection, I think I expected a larger collection, you know? Yet he had it in nice displays. The giant glass case was really nice. The table with the glass top and all the pins in it, that was cool. But there's always going to be somebody who's got a larger racing collection than the guy before him. You know, because you can collect anything. I mean, your whole house could be packed with IndyCar stuff.
The thing about Ron was he was able to stay focused, I think, in the era that he was interested in. For example, he loved Indianapolis cars. But you didn't see any Hot Wheels because those came later. He doesn't relate to Hot Wheels.
Right. That was a late 60s, early 70s thing.
Right. He had old stuff married with new stuff. I mean, they were old cars, but they were recently made. But he remained focused into what he liked, and his collection remained manageable, where he could display it all. Otherwise, you're buying so much bulk that eventually you start throwing it into boxes and hauling it out to the garage.
Becoming specialized in what you collect is very important. You know, if you were going to collect, let's say, Beatles stuff, I mean, are you just going to collect the music? Or are you going to collect everything associated with the Beatles ever? You know, photographs and tins and collector plates and jackets and you name it.
I think most people, as far as the Beatles are concerned, they start collecting their records. So you get all the ones that are fairly common, and it comes down to where you're missing a handful of them that are thousands of dollars each. And then maybe you start branching out and you collect some of their photographs and the dolls and a few other pieces. Kind of cheating, aren't you?
Well, I went, then you didn't go, then I went.
Well, we're supposed to take turns, otherwise you end up crossing the finish line and I'm still back here at the start.
I heard the whistle. I heard the whistle go. You know, saying it was time to start. So, isn't that what they use as a whistle?
You know nothing about racing, do you?
Not very much, no.
They don't even... Like,
is this a Prius? Now, these early Hot Wheels had redline tires, which made them fast.